You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
Welcome to One Bite is Everything, the podcast that connects the food on your plate to the bigger picture. I am your host, DiPrima, and today I want to bring your attention to something that's going on in the age-old chicken and egg saga. We have covered avian flu and the impact that has on egg prices and the challenges in replenishing a laying flock. Laying hens don't just pop off an assembly line. They have to reach egg-laying age a little more than 4 months before they can start hatching some delicious eggs for your breakfast omelet. This episode was requested by a small farmer in Washington state who has heard about issues with farmers getting new chicks to increase or restock their layer chickens or even their broilers. As a start, I wanted to share some background with you on the history of this business. I think you might be surprised about this century-old practice. To give you some insight on the scale of the operations and to share with you some conversations that I've had with small farmers and other frontline workers that shed light on this issue. Are you ready? Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Or was it something in between? When I got my first chickens in 2010, 6 Rhode Island red layers, they were mature, and my local farmer Mark delivered them to my house. I have kept layers ever since, and my current flock came to me in 2023 from Alchemist Farm in California as fluffy, adorable 3-day-old chicks, and they arrived via the US Postal Service to my local post office, where I hovered like a mama hen, awaiting their arrival. As with millions of backyard chicken keepers and much bigger small farms that provide their communities with eggs and chicken meat, the arrival of chicks in the mail is both a thrilling and nerve-wracking experience. Now, recent changes to postal policy have made it a high-stakes gamble for farmers, hatcheries, and homesteaders alike. Today, we'll be diving into the history of shipping live poultry, the recent challenges facing this practice, and what the future might hold. I'll be sharing some insights from small farmers, a U.S. Postal Service worker, as well as some data behind the headlines. Stick around, because this is about more than just fluffy yellow chicks. It's about food security, rural economies, and the unseen complications of our modern food system. Shipping live chicks by mail is a uniquely American practice that dates back to the late 1800s. As early as 1918, the U.S. Postal Service began officially allowing the shipment of day-old chicks. Why day-old? Because newly hatched chicks can survive for up to 72 hours without food or water, living off the residual yolk they absorbed before hatching. This biological quirk made them perfect candidates for shipping across long distances, opening up new business opportunities for hatcheries and small farmers. For more than a century, this service has connected small farmers to customers across the country, providing a critical link in the chain of our local food system. Today, the United States is the world's largest producer of poultry, and the ability to ship live chicks has been a vital part of that growth. Recent policy changes have thrown this tradition into a bit of turmoil. Let's start by talking about some of the big players in the hatchery world so you understand the scale of this national operation. First up is Ideal Poultry in Cameron, Texas. They ship over 6 million chicks annually, making them one of the largest non-commercial poultry suppliers in the United States. Their customer base spans backyard enthusiasts, small farms, and hobbyists, with a focus on providing a wide variety of breeds to fit every need. Then there's McMurray Hatchery in Webster City, Iowa. This family-owned business has been around since 1917, and they ship about 5 million chicks a year. They're a staple for small farms, educational programs, and anyone looking for more unique or heritage breeds. Hoover's Hatchery in Rudd, Iowa is another major player known for serving both small-scale farmers and retail partners. Meyer Hatchery in Polk, Iowa is a favorite among backyard chicken keepers, small farms, and homesteaders. They were on the podcast during the pandemic, talking about the mayhem of all the first-time backyard flock enthusiasts who were sheltering in place and looking for entertainment and fresh eggs, both of which chickens provide in abundance. Collectively, these hatcheries supply tens of millions of chicks a year, supporting not just backyard flocks, but the broader rural economy. They're a critical part of our food system, connecting small farmers and poultry enthusiasts to birds they need to keep their operations going. Lately, hatcheries of all sizes across the country have been featured in niche media outlets with stories of significant loss. Hatcheries like Cocktown Funky Orpingtons in North Carolina and Satin and Silk Ranch have reported losing thousands of dollars in dead-on-arrival chicks, prompting some to stop shipping entirely. These problems have real consequences. In Indiana, customers reported entire shipments arriving dead due to delays at the Indianapolis distribution center. In Kansas, one shipment of 100 chicks arrived with only 9 survivors after being exposed to freezing temperatures. In Montana, feed stores have reported chicks arriving late and in poor health, often requiring immediate emergency care. I spoke with one small hatchery that has had to alter their shipping protocols, increasing the bedding and food provided for the chicks during travel to 4 days instead of 3. Which costs more, but accommodates for shipping delays. I spoke with 2 other farms that are not ordering new chicks unless they are within driving distance, and one of the bigger small farms with a steady chicken operation has skipped the U.S. Postal Service process for some time, getting their chicks shipped in custom, direct from the hatchery. During the past 3 presidential terms, there has been some upheaval at the U.S. Postal Service that may have contributed to the efficiency of delivery checks in the mail. Let's rewind to Trump's first term, when the U.S. Postal Service began facing severe financial strain. Under Postmaster General Louis DeJoy, who was appointed in 2020, the U.S. Postal Service rolled out a controversial 10-year plan called Delivering for America. This plan aimed to cut costs, raise prices, and streamline operations, but at a significant cost to service reliability. Among the changes, a reduction in the workforce. About 30,000 U.S. Postal Service positions have been cut since 2021, with 10,000 more expected through early retirement buyouts. Distribution centers have been consolidated, leading to increased transit times for live animal shipments. Financial pressure. The U.S. Postal Service reported a $9.5 billion deficit in 2024, driving aggressive cost-cutting measures. For chick shipments, this meant longer travel times, more missed connections, and higher mortality rates. When Biden took office in 2021, there was a temporary reprieve for small farmers and hatcheries. His administration rolled back some of the more aggressive Postal Service cost-cutting measures, invested in rural infrastructure, and restored some of the funding cut during Trump's first term. These changes were short-lived, and by the time Trump returned to office in 2025, the focus shifted back to cost reduction and privatization. In January of 2025, U.S. Postal Service introduced a $15 live and perishable handling fee per box for shipments containing live animals, including chicks. This fee, which doesn't guarantee faster delivery or even insurance, has only added to the financial strain on small farms and hatcheries. The situation has grown recently more severe. Starting in July of 2025, the U.S. Postal Service plans to implement a significant overhaul that includes the elimination of 21 national distribution centers. This move is part of the Delivering for America 10-year restructuring plan, aimed at modernizing the delivery network and addressing financial challenges. While the U.S. Postal Service asserts that these changes will enhance service reliability and financial stability, there is concern that the elimination of distribution centers could further slow down mail delivery, particularly in rural areas. I spoke with a postal worker at my local post office in upstate New York. He was baffled that you couldn't get tracking on your live animal shipments. He hadn't had live chicks come into the post office in a while, but 2 boxes of honeybees have been lost in the system with no tracking number for weeks. They are certainly dead by now. And you can't get a reimbursement from the company unless you have a picture of the dead bugs, which is impossible if they are not making it through the system. While there's a lot of attention that has been given to the difficulties that small farmers face when shipping chicks, it's important to recognize that the large-scale poultry producers are not immune to these challenges. For instance, in May 2025, a significant incident occurred involving Freedom Ranger Hatchery in Pennsylvania. A shipment of approximately 10,000 baby birds, including quail, geese, and chicks, was left stranded in a U.S. Postal Service truck at a Delaware distribution center for several days. By the time the issue was discovered, around 4,000 birds had perished due to dehydration and starvation, highlighting the vulnerabilities in the shipping process, even for large hatcheries. To mitigate such risks, many industrial poultry companies have adopted vertically integrated models. Companies like Tyson Foods and Pilgrim's Pride often maintain their own breeder flocks and hatcheries, allowing them to control the entire production process, including the transportation of chicks. By using company-owned vehicles and specialized chick vans, they can ensure optimal conditions during transit, reducing reliance on external carriers like the U.S. Postal Service. However, not all producers have the capacity for complete vertical integration. Independent hatcheries such as Keith Smith Company serve as vital suppliers for many in the industry. They offer customizable chick packaging and shipping options, including next-day mail services and chick vans to meet the diverse needs of their clients. Despite these measures, shipping live chicks remains a delicate process. Research indicates that chicks can suffer increased mortality rates if deprived of food and water for extended periods during transit. Environmental factors like temperature fluctuations and handling stress further exacerbate these risks. While large-scale poultry producers have implemented strategies to safeguard chick shipments, challenges persist. Ensuring the welfare of these animals during transit requires continuous attention to transportation methods, environmental conditions, and logistical planning. As we wrap up, let's consider what we still don't know. For example, will the U.S. Postal Service continue to serve as a reliable lifeline for rural farmers, homesteaders, and backyard flock keepers, or will they be pushed out by higher costs and unreliable service? Could privatization lead to even more significant disruptions in rural food systems? And what happens to the farmers who rely on this service if the U.S. Postal Service decides it's not worth the financial risk? All right, friends. If this conversation has sparked a few questions for you, I'd love to hear them. Send me a message and let's keep this conversation going. If you're a small farmer or hatchery owner dealing with these challenges, I'd especially like to hear your story. Thanks for tuning in to One Bite is Everything. I am your host, Dana DiPrima, and until next time, keep asking those questions about where your food comes from, because every bite really is connected to the bigger picture, even to the U.S. Postal Service.